One. I'm Elizabeth Gearhart with Fireside. I'm here with Marcella Gencarelli and Taryn Abrahams, and Marcella is going to interview Taryn about her business.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. I am so excited to be here with you both today. And Taryn Abrahams, your business is just, it's a wow. Empower Behavioral Services. It actually spells out exactly what you do. Tell us about you. I'm excited to learn.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm excited to be here and part of this interview experience. So my business, I created it a couple of years ago, and it was very much, to be quite honest, in reaction to the Me Too movement. I saw a need in the marketplace to provide better training around the topics of harassment and workplace bullying. And I really saw a need to kind of shift the conversation from just sort of training that checks the box to training that actually gives people the tools to be able to speak up when something doesn't feel right, set boundaries, be an effective bystander if you see something that just doesn't look so right. And you know, the reality is most people that are in uncomfortable situations at work mostly go silent because we just don't have the scripts or the tools in order to address the issue. And, you know, my business sort of grew from there. And really, you know, when people ask me, what does Empower offer? We offer coaching, consulting, and training services designed to help companies improve behaviors. So whether it's you have a concern about harassment issues, you have morale issues, cliques, gossip, perhaps you have communication issues. There's maybe silos or people working in different departments and really working very separately and not working cohesively. I very much take a very behavioral approach to the work that I do. My background is unique. I'm not HR. I'm actually a clinical psychologist with a very strong background as a psychotherapist. So everything that I do is utilizing the lens that I in terms of looking at people from a behavioral standpoint, giving them the tools to improve their communications, building soft skills. So that's what I do.
Sounds like you have very big differentiators, which is phenomenal.
I mean, I
did you want to elaborate?
I do. Yeah, definitely. And again, I think my background is a big differentiator. And I'm very clear with my clients what I am and what I'm not. You know, I am not an outsourced HR resource, but what I do is I create customized content to help companies create positive social change. And everything I do is very much focused on helping my audience, whether it's an individual I'm coaching or it's a department that I'm working with, to create aha moments. I call them light bulb moments. When I can help someone turn the light bulb on in terms of the impact that they have on others, whether it's leadership or how you communicate, when the light bulb goes on and we create that aha moment, that to me is like, it's magic. And that's when you can start to see real change within an individual or a department or even an organization. So I'm very big on educating people on sort of the psychology behind why we act the way we do. And I help people uncover barriers, whether it's interpersonal barriers, and sometimes, honestly, personal life comes up sometimes in my individual coaching. You know, oftentimes our upbringing, how we were socialized, impacts how we lead and how we communicate with others. So I take a very sort of holistic approach. I don't just focus on just the business. I focus on the whole person and everything around that that's behaviorally focused.
And if I can
So when you take on a new client, what does that look like?
That's a great question. So yeah, so it always starts off with a free consultation. I want to understand the situation that's occurring within this company. And then I kind of identify what their goals are. You know, what would you, if I was to give you a magic wand, what would a perfect day look like for you? You know, what does good look like? And then I basically, you know, it depends on the situation. It depends on the client. Oftentimes I have enough information to create a training program and we sort of, you know, develop our partnership through that and we grow from that. Sometimes the issues aren't so clear. And the relationship starts with just some consulting. Sometimes I use assessments. Oftentimes I use assessments and questioning and interviewing to kind of identify what the barriers are. Like for instance, companies will call me up and say, we have high turnover, we need help. Okay, but there's so many causes to high turnover. I could surmise, but that wouldn't do me any good. So it really sometimes requires me to kind of peel some layers behind with the company to kind of identify what the root of the issue is. We can't fix things if we don't know what the problem is, right? And oftentimes companies know there's an issue, they just don't know how to properly label it. And that's where I come in.
Excellent. I do want to point out here that you are an investment for a company, because high turnover, lawsuits because somebody doesn't like the way they've been spoken to, can cost dearly.
Oh my gosh. Elizabeth, you bring up such a good point. I always say I am way more cost effective than a lawsuit, right? Unfortunately, most of my clients are reactive rather than proactive. I would love to see more companies take a more proactive approach, but unfortunately, I usually do get the call when things are happening, when there's a potential lawsuit, or there's unhappy employees. But absolutely, I try to instill that in all my prospects and clients. This is an investment. Companies and leaders that take the time to invest in their people through training not only builds loyalty with your employees, but it also shows them that they care, that we're invested in you, that we're not just focused on your output. We actually care about the whole person. So it sends so many positive messages when companies invest in training. Absolutely. Great point.
Thanks.
That was perfect. What are some things that might be different now during coronavirus for you and connecting with your customers?
Yeah. So honestly, what has changed for me is my entire business is now obviously virtual, right? To keep people safe. And I'm finding that I can actually service larger companies now because of technology, which actually has become a huge plus for me. And I find myself working with larger and larger companies. My sweet spot has always been the small business under 200 employees, but I'm now finding myself working with medium-sized companies with 2,000 employees because of the opportunity to leverage technology. What's also different now is I find that the clients that I'm obtaining the reasons they're hiring me are a little bit different than prior years. Prior years was about, can you help us communicate better? Can you help us build more inclusive environments? Although that is still a hot topic, but I'm starting to get calls about, can you help us protect our mental health? Can you help us build more resilient teams? Can you help me avoid burnout? Which was never a request that I would get. And so I think that the silver lining to this pandemic is it really is opening the door to talking about things that maybe were more difficult to talk about in the past. I mean, mental health was always such a stigma to talk about in the workspace, right? And I think now people and leaders are starting to realize we can't ignore this, that mental health impacts bottom line. It impacts productivity. It impacts engagement. So it's part of the conversation now, and I'm just thrilled to see that. And I hope it doesn't go anywhere. I hope it stays like this, because I used to think it was a really missed opportunity for businesses.
Very nice. Do you have any success stories that you'd like to share? And obviously no names, but
Yes,
just maybe examples of what it looks like.
Yes. In fact, this example I'm going to give you has happened many, many times. One of the biggest reasons why people want to work with me for coaching is leaders that are struggling to engage and motivate millennials. I cannot tell you how many leaders will call me and say, I'm ready to fire this person. So I want to work with you and see if this is salvageable. And it's so many times I will work with this executive and I will help them reframe the relationship that they have with their employee. Now, when I say reframe, I help them shift the way they look at this person, therefore shifting the way they lead them. And it really goes back to helping people improve emotional intelligence. And right, and it honestly, a lot of my work goes back to EI. It's about managing, teaching the leader how to manage their emotions in order to improve their job performance and also the job performance of those that they lead. So I've had many experiences working with executives that they started working with me and they said, I don't know how I'm going to motivate this person. We are so different in age and in terms of how we work and our work style. And by the end of the experience, I don't want to say that they're best friends, but the relationship is a beautiful one. They actually, what ends up happening with the leader is they recognize that they could actually mentor this person and work with them and bring out the best of them and empower them, right, in ways that they never realized they could. Once I help them address the frustration and the barrier, it's incredible to see how the relationship just unfolds from there. And I share that experience because I know there are a lot of executives out there that are really struggling with this issue. They say in a couple of years, 60% of our workforce is going to be millennials. And many of those millennials are going to be in leadership positions. So these leaders are going to be millennials and they're going to be leading people that are older than them. So I think the conversation about how to motivate and engage a multi-generational workforce is here to stay. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. And I think a wonderful way to help that move along is through professional coaching, which a big part of my business. I have so many other stories, but for the sake of time, I think that's the best one to highlight because it goes from them literally saying, I'm going to put this person on a performance plan, I'm going to fire them eventually, to they are my biggest asset on my team. So it's incredible to watch that magic happen. And that's what keeps me going.
Yeah, that's huge because
that's huge.
Yeah, you can have a great employee at the technical stuff, but if they can't get along with the rest of your team, you cannot keep them. So
right. And that all has to do with emotional intelligence. And companies that focused on science, math, IT, they're great at what they do, but typically it's the other side of the brain that deals with emotional management and interpersonal skills. And oftentimes that is an area of opportunity for them. And the great news about emotional intelligence is unlike EQ, which is a fixed number, can never really change. I mean, some people claim you could play brain games and get smarter. I'm not so convinced on that. But emotional intelligence, with practice and intention, you can actually get better at it. And a lot of researchers and scientists suggest that EQ, or emotional intelligence or emotional quotient, is more valuable in the workplace than IQ. So absolutely. I'm a big supportive of exploring that.
So you work with small businesses.
So you're extremely impassioned.
Yeah, you work with corporations. Yeah.
I'm sorry, you were both talking at the same time.
Go, Marcella, you go.
No, I like Elizabeth's question. It's true. So your ideal customers, both large clients as well as small companies as well.
I wouldn't say large, although I just obtained a new client that has 12,000 employees and they hired me just to work with one department. If it's a department or two, then I can handle a large client. But really my sweet spot is, I would say, under 2,000 employees, even maybe under 1,000 employees. I do have people that I contract to bring in to service those larger clients, but really I'm the one that brings the intellectual property to the experience with my background. So it's really me. It's really me that brings the insight and like I said, the intellectual property. So it's kind of tough to clone me. But I do have people that can, I do have, people that I contract to do things like team building and things of that nature. But when it comes time to really peeling the layers back and getting into the meat of an organization, that's me. That's me.
Well, Taryn, are there any last words that you'd like to let everyone know, like discussion points or information about you and about your business to take this home?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I would say that oftentimes companies don't always know when to contact someone like me, right? I mean, it's funny. I use the word culture all the time. If you have a weak culture, your culture is lacking. Oftentimes, business leaders don't really understand or don't really can pinpoint what that means in terms of a culture. Like, how is my culture? Is it good? Is it not good? It could be good in one department and not be good in another department. So I always say if companies are struggling with high turnover, retention, they're not retaining good, they're the people they're recruiting. If they are having trouble, if there's a lot of cliques, if there's a lot of separation within departments, that might be worth, having a conversation with someone like myself. There may be things going on in the business that you may be totally unaware of that could be really sort of eating at your bottom line. And to work with someone like me is unique. It's different than hiring an HR professional. I never claim to be an HR specialist, but if someone is looking to create a social change within their organization, I'm the one to call.
Wow, that was very good. That was excellent. That was excellent because in my mind, I'm thinking of a survey, like for companies to take that you would send them to say, well, why do you
Yep.
need me?
Right, absolutely. I mean,
Uncover
oftentimes
the needs.
surveys are a great way, an anonymous survey is a great way to take the pulse of an organization or a department. It's a great way. And, I encourage companies to do that, take the pulse every once in a while. Because at the end of the day, I think, especially, the first time ever in history, we have 5 generations in the workforce. And the younger generation, especially, there's this need for sense of belonging, this need to be a part of, right? Especially now where people are dispersed, maybe not working all in the office together because of COVID. The question becomes, how do we engage, right? How do we keep people connected? And to me, that's the secret sauce to bringing out the most of an employee. You want more output, then focus on the engagement part. Because once you get that person connected and feeling a part of, they're going to automatically want to go above and beyond for you. People that don't feel respected or a part of, they do mediocre work because they don't see the value in putting more into it. So I would love to have an opportunity to offer, I do offer free consultations, it would be a half hour just to kind of have an open discussion to see if it would be a good fit for us to work together. And I welcome that opportunity. And will you be sharing my contact information for those that would like to maybe contact me?
Yes.
Okay,
You
great.
want to just say your website quickly?
Sure. My website is www.empowerbehavioralservices.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn under my first and last name. I do have a company page, but I'm still trying to beef that up and build it up. I tend to post everything on my personal page. So you can find lots of videos, lots of content on my website, on my LinkedIn page. And also I have a YouTube channel that you can access as well, Empower Behavioral Services. So there's tons of content, motivational videos, great short videos that will get your wheels thinking, get your wheels turning.
I just want to make one comment. So talking to you today and listening to you, I feel like companies probably really appreciate your straightforward, kind style. I don't feel like you're judgmental, but I feel like you kind of tell it like it is, but in a nice way. And you tell them what they need to hear, right?
Yes. You're so spot on. Yes, it's always how you deliver it though, right? So you have to be careful and respectful, but you hire me and you're going to be challenged in some ways. I will push you a little bit out of your comfort zone. And every single time people appreciate it. It's all in how you do it, but it becomes a journey and we walk down that journey together. I learn from my clients every single day. And that's what life is really about, right? And it's amazing how when you can help turn that light bulb on for someone, how it can shift someone's entire perspective about their career, their life. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I really, again, I think that's a huge asset to the services I provide, is because I have that clinical experience. I'm able to sort of really get people to focus on the psychology and the why behind we're even working together. What led us here, right?
Mhm.
It's an interesting journey, very rewarding work. I truly, truly love the work that I do. I love helping people. I love empowering people. And I do love challenging people in a respectful, healthy way, of course.
Well, I do have to say, I love getting compliments and hearing nice things about myself. That's great. But I really appreciate hearing people tell me where I can improve. And somebody just did that this morning, and I'm going to take a look at how I'm doing things based on what he said, because I think he was right.
Yeah, I mean, that's where we learn, right? I mean, that's what it's all about, is providing feedback in a meaningful way. And that's really how we learn. We don't learn when everything's going well. We learn when there's a little misstep, right?
Mhm.
Right. I call it an area of opportunity, you know. I don't call them mistakes, because, you know, we're meant to make those missteps or mistakes, because learning, that's where lessons come,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
Yep, definitely. Whenever I would write an action plan for my team, and problems would never be called problems, they would be called exactly that, opportunity.
Opportunities, absolutely. And some of the best leaders I've worked with will give their employees the permission to make mistakes, which is a very modern, progressive approach, but it makes so much sense. It's okay for you to get a little messy and dirty and make a mistake, because guess what? That's where we learn. As long as we learn from our mistakes, then it wasn't a waste, right?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So, right. And I say the same thing about conflict too. It's funny. I love companies hire me oftentimes to help improve conflict resolution skills, alleviate issues, you know, within teams. And I always say, it's just like a marriage, for instance. Or an intimate relationship. How many of us have ever had an argument with our partner, and we actually worked it out, and it actually made the relationship better? Conflict can actually be a wonderful thing for an organization if utilized and leveraged appropriately. You know, we never want it to become a personal thing. It should never be a character attack. But if there's conflict, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. And I've seen some amazing innovation and out of the box thinking come out of some really nasty conflict.
So it could be a growth opportunity.
Absolutely, 100%. 100%. And so many leaders look at conflict as a negative, and then they go in there thinking negative and rolling their eyes, not really looking at it as an opportunity. Like, we could grow here. But oftentimes conflict, you know, and that comes oftentimes can go back to the way we were raised. If we grew up with a lot of yelling and unresolved issues, then conflict is unpleasant. But if we grew up in an environment where you saw people argue but make up, right? Then your experience with conflict was very different. And believe it or not, we carry all that stuff into the workplace.
Excellent. I think that anybody that has employees should talk to you. Definitely.
Me too.
Yes, you are a much needed resource.
Yes.
I'm really, I'm blessed to do the work that I'm doing. And it's important work, and I'm here to help anyone that I can.
And you're
Great.
out making a difference.
Yes.
Well, thank you,
Yes. One
Taryn.
company at a time.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity. This was wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you.